Welcome to my channel Limelight Leaks. Please share and subscribe, and hit the bell icon for latest updates. Tom Smith was one of the most loved people on car TV shows. But his story ended really fast and nobody saw it coming. Tom was the loud, funny mechanic on a show called Fast and Loud. He made everyone laugh and brought crazy fun to the show. He was like the heart that kept everything going. Then one day, he just wasn't there anymore. No one told people why. No goodbye message. Fans were left asking what really happened to him. Soon, scary stories started going around about him. The real story is twisted and full of lies, someone almost dying, and a mystery that we can finally solve. And the truth isn't very nice at all. The Dallas highway thing was the scariest part of the Tom Smith mystery. It started with people whispering about a terrible car crash. For years, fans were really scared about what might have happened. Then, a shocking story showed up online that seemed to prove their worst fears were true. The story spread super fast on social media and fan websites. The story said that in 2022, Tom Smith was in a really bad car crash while driving on a highway in Dallas. The story claimed he lost control of his car and crashed into a tree. His car was totally destroyed and Tom got really hurt. The details were horrible and very specific, which made people think it was real. The story said he got really bad injuries to his head, neck, and legs. He had to be rushed to the hospital for lots of surgeries. It was like a nightmare story about a hero getting hurt by bad luck. The story also said that Tom had to go through a long and painful time getting better. He had to learn how to walk, talk, and even work again. For fans who hadn't seen Tom in years, this story felt really scary and real. It explained why he was so quiet and why he disappeared from TV. The rumor even said that after going through all this terrible stuff, he somehow came back to work at Fired Up Garage and his show Misfit Garage. But there was a big problem with that story. Misfit Garage had already stopped being on TV for years when the accident was supposed to happen. The show quietly ended in 2018. Which was 4 whole years before the crash supposedly happened. This weird detail was the first clue that the real story was way more complicated than just a car crash. The mystery wasn't just about one thing that happened on a Dallas highway. It was about a career that had been torn apart piece by piece. To understand how fans could believe such a sad story, you have to go back to when it all started going wrong. The day Tom Smith disappeared from Gas Monkey Garage. Before all the rumors and silence, Tom Smith was doing really well. Fast and Loud was a huge hit when it started in 2012, and Tom was a fan favorite. He was a funny guy, the wild one who brought crazy energy to Gas Monkey Garage. Then, in 2014, he and his friend Jordan Butler were suddenly fired. The reason why became a bitter story with 2 very different sides. The story that fans supported made Tom look like a hero. It started when a fan with a sickness called cystic fibrosis came to visit the garage. The fan just wanted to see the cool cars and maybe get a picture taken. Tom and Jordan wanted to do something nice, so they let the fan pose with Richard Rawlings's expensive Rolls-Royce car. But what happened next was shocking. Tom said that Richard Rawlings got super angry. He supposedly used bad words and told the sick fan to get away from his car. Tom and Jordan were really surprised. They stood up for the fan and told their boss that how he handled it was wrong. For trying to do the right thing, they got fired right away. This story made them heroes to many people watching the show. They had lost their jobs for doing what was right. But there was another version of the story from the Gas Monkey side. Their side was much simpler. It said that Tom got into a big fight with his boss and said bad words to him, which got him fired for not following orders. In a Reddit question session, Richard Rawlings was asked directly why he fired Tom. He gave a vague answer that sounded like corporate talk, saying many things contributed, and I had to make the decision that was best for my business. He wouldn't give any specific details, which just made fans guess even more. But the real truth was hidden behind the scenes of reality TV. While Tom and Jordan were shown as outcasts, something strange was happening behind the scenes. Richard Rawlings, the man who supposedly fired them when he was angry, was quietly setting them up for their next big move. He wasn't just their old boss. He was about to become the person in charge of their brand new rival TV show. The firing wasn't just random workplace drama. It was the perfect dramatic setup for a spin-off show. The real betrayal wasn't that Tom got fired, but that the whole fight might have been a lie from the very beginning. Tom and Jordan saw a chance to get back at their old boss. They were fired, but they weren't giving up. If they couldn't work for Gas Monkey, they would build their own garage to beat them. They teamed up with two other mechanics, Thomas Weeks and Scott McMillan, to start a new shop. They needed a name that showed their spirit as the rejects of the car world. Tom had the perfect idea, inspired by a sign he made for his toolbox back in 1988 that said Foo Auto Service. They called their new business Fired Up Garage, a name with a clear message to their old boss. Soon after, Discovery Channel came to talk to them. They gave the crew their own show called Misfit Garage, which started in October 2014. The idea was simple and brilliant. The mechanics who got kicked out of Gas Monkey were setting up shop right down the street to compete with their old boss. And their landlord for the new shop was Richard Rawlings himself, who would often stop by to create drama and tease his new rivals. The show was a hit right away. The first season got over 1 million viewers per episode. Fans loved the underdog story. It seemed like Tom and his crew were finally getting their revenge. For 6 seasons, Misfit Garage was successful, building a huge fan base and proving that the so-called rejects had what it took to make it on their own. It looked like Tom Smith was getting the last laugh. But behind the scenes, the dream was already starting to fall apart. The foundation of Misfit Garage was built on a supposed rivalry with Richard Rawlings, but that rivalry was mostly fake. As the show's executive producer, Rawlings was making money off his so-called enemies. The on-screen drama was made up for ratings. But soon, real drama began to happen behind the scenes, and it was way more destructive than any staged argument. The pressure of the show and constant fighting started to hurt everyone. The garage became like a revolving door of mechanics. Co-founder Scott McMillan was one of the first to leave. He got tired of all the constant fighting and arguing. He went off to focus on his own business called Scott Rod's Garage. Then, in a move that shocked fans, the other co-founder Jordan Butler also walked out at the beginning of season 4. He left in a fit because he didn't want to move to a bigger shop or work with a new partner. Later, another important mechanic named Kevin Clark quit too, saying he was done with all the chaos and drama and that it was time to move on. Fans started to notice that something was wrong with the show. Online forums were filled with complaints. People said the show felt too fake and that the quality of the car builds was getting worse. Viewers who were car experts began to criticize the crew for their careless methods. Like the time they turned a classic 1957 Chevy into a gasser instead of restoring it the right way. One fan on a forum compared the show to Here Comes Honey Boo Boo with cars. People also found out that Fired Up Garage wasn't a real working business. It was a closed set used only for filming the TV show. A sign on the gate even said it was a closed set. The show that was supposed to be about real mechanics building real cars was starting to feel completely fake. Fewer people started watching the show. Then in 2018, after the 6th season ended, Misfit Garage just disappeared. There was no official announcement that it was canceled. The show simply stopped airing, leaving fans confused and wondering what had happened. Years later, Thomas Weeks finally confirmed on Twitter what everyone suspected. When a fan asked why there were no new seasons, he replied that Discovery just don't like us no more, I guess. He added, "How you remove a hit show is beyond me." The Misfit empire had crumbled and Tom Smith faded from the spotlight. The wild, chaotic energy that made Tom a star wasn't just an act for the cameras. It was part of who he had always been since he was young. His love for cars started when he was just a kid growing up in Ohio and Georgia. His uncle owned a junkyard and Tom was surrounded by cars from when he was very young. His passion was so strong that he bought his first car when he was only 10 years old. He mowed lawns to save up enough money to buy a 1973 Pontiac. But Tom wasn't just passionate. He was also reckless and wild. In one story, he admitted that when he was 10, he went joy riding in a 1974 Pontiac and ended up crashing it into a police car. When he was a teenager, he moved back to Ohio and found himself surrounded by Chevy fans. To be different, he bought a 1967 Ford Galaxie convertible. His car had a powerful 428 Police Interceptor engine. He made it even faster than it already was. And one day he decided to see what it could really do at top speed. He took the car over a railway track at 120 miles per hour. The car literally broke in half from the impact. Looking back, Tom said he had way more fun than should be allowed. His skills weren't just from trial and error though. A master mechanic in Ohio named Carl Parsons, who was famous in local racing circles, took Tom under his wing and taught him how to work on cars properly. Tom developed a love for solving mechanical mysteries and figuring out what went wrong with engines. He preferred the old motors, which he said looked like art. He complained that modern electronics made diagnosing problems way more complicated than the old days. This was the real Tom Smith. A guy who loved cars, loved to push the limits, and wasn't afraid of a little chaos. It was this genuine personality that connected with millions of viewers on TV. It also might explain why he clashed with a tightly controlled world of a major television production. He was too real for a business built on fake drama. Beyond the grease and the gags, there was a whole other side to Tom Smith that most viewers never got to see. He is a dedicated family man married to his wife Deanna, and together they have 4 grown children and 2 grandsons. Paragraph 17, 1,000 characters. His life wasn't just about the garage. It was about the family he was building away from the cameras. The humor and wit that fans loved on the show were not fake. Tom has been a stand-up comedian for years, long before he was ever on television. He regularly performed at improv clubs in Dallas, and even took his act to New York City. He even dreamed of bringing his comedy into Misfit Garage, but the show never quite made room for that part of his life. He also has a creative side that goes beyond cars and comedy. Tom is an artist who loves to draw. He once told an interviewer that he used to be a great drawer, but now he's a good drawer instead. His art has even been put up on the walls of friends' homes, where he has sometimes used around 200 Sharpies to create murals. His artistic eye is also clear in his appreciation for classic car design, particularly the stylish thin Chrysler cars of the late 50s and early 60s known as the Exner cars. After Misfit Garage ended and Tom disappeared from TV, the silence allowed the darkest rumors to grow and spread. But the truth is, Tom Smith never truly vanished or disappeared. He just stepped away from the world that had almost consumed him completely. He chose a quieter life, but one that was more authentic to who he really was as a person. The humor and wit that fans loved on the show were not an act or fake. Tom has been a stand-up comedian for years, long before he was ever on television. After leaving the spotlight, he continued to perform at improv clubs in Dallas and even in New York, making people laugh on his own terms. He even expressed a desire to incorporate his comedy into Misfit Garage, a dream that never came to fruition on the show. He also has a creative side that goes beyond cars and comedy. Tom is an artist who loves to draw. He once told an interviewer that he used to be a great drawer, but now he's a good drawer. His art has even been put up on the walls of friends' homes. He has sometimes used around 200 Sharpies to create murals on walls. His artistic eye is also evident in his appreciation for classic car design, particularly the stylish thin Chrysler cars of the late 50s and early 60s known as the Exner cars. He also dedicated more time to another one of his passions, helping animals in need. He and his wife Deanna are deeply involved in rescuing and transporting needy dogs, giving them a second chance at life. Fans who follow him on social media see a different side of Tom, a man with a huge heart who cares deeply about helping others. And of course, he never stopped loving cars. He just went back to working on them without the pressure of cameras and deadlines. In 2023, it was revealed that Tom was working at a shop called Dallas Customs and Classic, focusing on hot rods and becoming an expert in installing air conditioning units in classic cars. He was back to being a mechanic, pure and simple, just like in the old days. Then in late 2023, in a move that brought his story full circle, Tom Smith returned to Gas Monkey Garage. He sat down with Richard Rawlings for an episode of the Garage's YouTube series called Beer 30. The two men, once portrayed as bitter rivals, shared a drink and talked about the old days. They laughed about their shared history, including a time they recreated scenes from the movie Smokey and the Bandit together. And it became clear that the old wounds had either healed or were never as deep as they appeared on TV. Tom was back where it all started for him. But this time, he was in control of his own story instead of others controlling it. The Tom Smith death mystery was never about a real death. It was about the death of a television career instead. It was a story fueled by fake drama, backroom deals, and a terrifying accident rumor that fans feared was true. The not good part of his story wasn't his fate, but the brutal, often dishonest reality TV machine he had to survive. Tom Smith went through the fire and came out the other side. He walked away from the chaos and found a life that was real.